Yeah.
Your topic, Brandon.
All right. Yeah. So kind of like just kind of building off of what is on the board. Just kind of wanted to go around and kind of get everybody's kind of input on the various differences and what they do of a starter routine versus a relieving routine. For me, I was thinking back to 2019 and when I was in Double A with Corpus Christi and how I used to struggle a lot in the first inning. And I was like, why am I having such a hard time in the first inning? I don't really understand it. And then the article kind of got me thinking. It's like, well, I wasn't really ever accounting for all the throws I was making in pregame, like going from, all my plyo care throws, all of like wrist weight throws, and then you go long toss, come back in, like start your spin work from like 60 feet range on flat ground. Then I'm moving into the bullpen, throwing 25, 35 pitches, like walk in from the bullpen. I've got maybe 3 to 5 minutes rest, go out, throw another 8 pitches before the game starts, and then we go. And so I'm like, in that like 20, 30 minute span, I had like over 150 throws, easy. And I haven't like thrown one pitch that's actually applied to the pitch count.
Yeah,
Right.
now you're 26 pitches deep in the first inning with 2 guys on.
Exactly.
And your head's spinning and your body's just like,
And I'm tired.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the first inning. Like, what is going on? So I was kind of like curious, especially like from the starters in the group, like, what do you guys do pregame? And like, have you ever thought about this? Like, accounting for all those throws you're making before you even get on the bump. And then two, with the relievers, like, how different is that? And like, how you get your body ready to go in like such a short amount of time? Because like, I'm sure as you guys know, it's like, hey, next hitter, and you've got to be dialed in a like 2-minute window.
We were actually talking about that, about a month ago with you. Like,
Yeah.
Throwing even your 20 pitches in the pen versus throwing 5 or 10.
Right.
Because you go through like you have your plyo ball. Well, you're moving around first off throughout the game, just staying loose. I'm assuming, right?
Right. Like, no, go ahead.
I don't know what your routine is, but
Yeah, so like, well, I think as I've gotten older, like I've done both. Like I did both in college, closed and start, and then I've been like primarily a reliever since I've been in pro ball. But what I'm like finding out, and like this is something you and me talked today, like after my velo day, is like lower volume for me, like lower volume of throws, but like at a higher intensity works better for me. So instead of like maybe doing like a lot of volume of throws and then like having a few recovery days where like you pad like some lighter intensity behind the throws, but like you still are like putting volume into your actual programming, I'm starting to see that doesn't really work as well for me. Like I remember when I was in college, like I did that same routine that you would talk about. Like I know my routine in college was, do all my movement prep, would do my plyo work, which would consist about probably, 20 throws. I would long toss out to about 330 feet, then do my pull downs, and I'd take like a 5-minute break, and I'd hop on the mound, and I'd do about 20 throws, or 20 pitches, and then I'd hop in the game. And I was always a guy as a starter, if you were going to get me, you were going to get me in the first inning, but if you let me settle in, I was going to go.
Yeah.
But as a reliever, like in college and since I've been in pro ball, it's like my routine is, okay, stay moving around, pretty much like I've done a lot of closing since I've been in pro ball. So like the 5th inning, I'm pretty checked out for like those first 5 innings.
that's fair.
Yeah. So once bottom of the 4th innings go up, pregame shit, got to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Movement prep, we hit that. I get like a dynamic warm up. Really have cut down like my plyo ball work to the point, instead of like, okay, I got to go through each drill, it's like, hey, get your body going, hit the necessary drills and weights that are going to get me in the most accurate positions that I need to be in, and then go out, and then phone rings, get on the mound and go. You give me about 6 pitches, I'm ready to go at that point. And that seems to be when I've been my most consistent and like performing at my top end of performance.
Do you think that's like a mental skill that you like had to adapt to, or is that like actually like something physical? Like just like, okay, I know if give me 6 to 10 pitches off the bump and I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? Because like as a starter for me, I used to be like, I need to, like my routine, I need to do my 25, 35 pitch pen. I need the 8 warm-up pitches going out to the game. You know what I mean? For me to feel mentally ready. And then it's like, then make it to the big leagues. And now it's like, oh, I've got maybe 5 minutes to get myself completely ready to go out and face some of the best hitters in the world. That was like a huge mental adjustment for me.
Right.
Just to like accept the fact it's like, all right, like I had 10 pitches on the bump. You know, I had very little time to do any sort of movement prep, but I had to get my body going in some
Right.
capacity. And it's like now, okay, that I just have to pitch. That's all there is to it.
Well, I think everybody's different, right? So like, I think me and him share this in the sense like I can kind of roll out of bed and like feel good to go for the most part. But like I also wouldn't describe myself as like an elite level athlete. I would say you probably have more athleticism than like I do in the sense
Well, I
like
appreciate that. But,
I don't jump high, like I don't run fast, like I'm really like not super coordinated. So like, you know, I don't know if that's why, like, okay, like maybe you just feel like you can get going like quicker than most people because you're not as good of an athlete, and like maybe that like plays into it a certain degree. I really don't know, but I think everybody's a little different. But for me, you know, it really doesn't take too much to get me going. I think you can still be like really routine based as a reliever. I think when I see like starters that go from like a starter routine to the bullpen, they kind of are like a fish out of water in the sense of like, okay, like I don't know what's going on, but you know, hopefully you're playing for a manager that has an idea of like how to utilize a bullpen, so you can start to see when you go into the game, like, okay, when are they calling down to get me warmed up? And then you start to figure out, okay, what's my role? Am I coming into high leverage situations? Am I coming into low leverage situations? And then you start to see that, okay, probably going to pitch today, game's going this way, probably need to start moving around a little bit, and you start to develop a routine, even though like there's chaos and there's uncontrollables around you.
it's like how much time do I know that I'm going to need
Right.
to be ready to go, regardless of the situation.
And I would say for most guys, like it's probably not as much like as you think it is. Like I think we have this idea of, I used to be this way, where it's like if I don't foam roll for 30 minutes and I don't do like my 20 minutes of activation and I don't do my mobility work, which would take me, like that whole process would take me like an hour and a half
Yeah.
before like I even pick up a baseball. It's like if I don't do all that, I'm putting myself at like a risk to like get injured. I'm not doing everything I can do. Like, sorry, but like I think that's bullshit to a certain degree. You know, like you probably, like I think the heart's in the right place with that. Like, yeah, you're just trying to check off every single box that you need to make sure that you're ready. But in reality, you probably need a third of that to really get your body primed and ready to roll.
Yeah. What are you doing, Brett? Because
Yeah.
you've kind of done both, right?
Yeah. So it was a little weird this past season. I started out in indie ball as a reliever, and then the manager was just like, "Hey, you know, we're looking for a starter. We want a guy." And I was like, jumped at it. I was like, "I will be a starter." He kind of gave me a week to like prime myself, like 2 bullpens, a bullpen, a live session, and then another bullpen, and then I was live in game as a starter. But like it completely switched for me because I had been a reliever my like whole college career. Back in like 9th inning, 8th inning, whatever you needed to, could flip it on in 6 throws, like Hess said, and I would just go, like run with it. And then being a starter, kind of like started to get the process. Okay, like let's long toss. We'll go out to probably 290, 300 feet, and then coming down, compression throws, on the mound, take a second, probably 15, 20 throws, 3 minutes in the dugout, and then let it roll. But I think I enjoyed that way more as a starter because I felt like I had a little bit more of a process than like trying to urgently get the 6 pitches, then you got to go get guys out. And then I went from a starter in indie ball and then signed to the Mexican League, and then they made me a reliever. So I'm sitting there with like, you know, they've been there the whole year, so I'm kind of the young buck there. And it went from having my routine to, you got your 6 pitches, go back and like, you know, hey, he's a lefty up, throw this, righty up, and they try to give you the cues of the hitters in their cold zones, but it kind of went back and forth. So in my like relieving role, it was plow balls, maybe like 5 minutes, loosened up. It was get out there. We could hang out in the locker room because we had the TVs and everything. So I get out there probably the 5th inning. I knew I was a later end guy. And then foam roll, cross ball, quick like 5 minutes, plow balls 5 minutes. If they started that, like they wanted me to get going, it was like a couple high knees, butt kickers. I mean, and then I was just ripping them off the mound.
So you're trying to get like You're just trying to get generally loose.
Yeah, generally loose.
Not
I'm not
necessarily
trying to do
up to
anything.
rowing, but
Yeah.
like just get blood flowing.
Yeah,
so.
blood flowing from. So as soon as I get out there in the 5th, dab everyone up, and then I just start my process of loosening up, and then it's like the 6th or 7th, and as long as I had like a warm body temperature and good to go, and I felt loose,
You just
as
pick
soon
up the ball.
yeah,
and
pick
go.
up a ball and go. Because at that point, like the extra stuff, like Hess was talking about, it's like you don't really have that much time unless you get out there in the 3rd and you do your whole thing, and then you might not even go in. And at that point, as a reliever, like you got to be able to throw like every day or every other day, if like the team deems that. But like watching guys do their routine, it was super simple as relievers, and starters a little bit more complex. But everyone's different. So I went from being a reliever to starter to reliever, and then this next year I'm going to be a starter. So
You've been all over the map.
yeah, so like this year they want me to be a starter. So like I'd be curious to see like what your guys' routine is. Maybe like take something from you, and then run it this year. So yeah, I've kind of been.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've been, so this is the first year where I was a reliever. And that was definitely an adjustment I had to make because I've been a starter my whole life. And given when I was in pro ball, I kind of battled with like mono and injuries, so I didn't really have that adjustment to make that when I was like a starter. But when I was in JUCO, I definitely didn't, when you were talking about that earlier, I didn't take that into account, like how many pitches I've been throwing.
How many
And
total
so
throws?
to me, when I was throwing, I always thought that as much throws as I get is when I'm gonna be like warm, like feel warm, and I'll be ready to go when I got on the mound. My issue when I was at my JUCO is that I was always, the first couple of innings, I wasn't throwing as hard. Whenever I'd go into the 8th or 9th inning, I'll be throwing way harder. So like say first or second inning, I'm 88 to 90, and then 8th or 9th inning, I'm 93.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is that? And I think it's just because like right before I go out into the first inning, I'm not giving myself
Enough
I'm
rest
thinking
time.
enough time to rest. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking I need to get ready, feel warm, because it takes me a little longer to feel that way by throwing as much as I can. And I think that, especially when I became a reliever this past year, it was definitely an adjustment. And I was like kind of like the first out of the bullpen or like a setup guy. And I definitely had to learn how to use, not necessarily throw as much, but use my body to get warm up more rather than my arm. And I actually found a lot more success and throwing harder that way.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And-
it sounds like to me, like as relievers, it's key just to make sure, like, just your body feels
Yeah.
good. And then
Yeah.
it's like, all right, I need to pick up the ball and I need to go.
Yeah.
But as long as you know that you feel loose and you
Yeah.
feel ready, like that's all you really need.
So then there was like a couple guys that got injured, and they knew that I was a starter, so they put me into the starter role for a couple spot starts, and I kind of struggled, and I wasn't throwing nearly as hard as I was as a reliever.
Did you go right back to your starter routine when they did that?
No, so that's what
Okay.
I was thinking, and that's also another thing that I didn't take into account. I wasn't following my routine as well. I was so used to doing the reliever role and liking my role, first out of bullpen or setup guy, and then they said, "Oh, you're going to be a starter." I mean, given it was a little bit last second, maybe a couple days before I was going to go out, but I was throwing a lot more, and I didn't feel as warm or like loose when I was on the mound. If that makes
Interesting.
any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of struggled with, and I was walking guys, and like, why is this happening? But every
Yeah.
time I go back to the reliever role, I was doing a lot better.
Do you think it's like a physical thing mostly or mental where you're like,
I think it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Especially like whenever I came in as a reliever, I felt like I was just confident, and I just felt like I was just like I was flinging it, and it was just strikes, strikeouts, and then I think going back and forth, it was like, I kind of was not liking the anticipation of going out there as a starter. Like I was thinking too much, and I was
Yeah.
getting my head in like, since I was going back and forth, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? Like, oh, I forgot to do this or something, and I wasn't staying true to what I used to know as a starter. And then I think when I would go out there, especially the first inning, I'm kind of like a little bit more nervous than usual, and I'm walking
Yeah.
guys.
That's when you say that, because like mentally, like as a reliever, for me, it was like 6 pitches, whatever, get on the mound in the bullpen, and then you get your like 8 out there, or I think they bumped it down to 6 or whatever. But like as a reliever, I knew I had to be like perfect. Like I had to put the pressure. Like it had to go inside, away, up and down. I mean, some really good hitters. But then as like the starter role, I kind of just like was relaxed and chill and ran out there, and I think I took a seat back like a little, and I was way better as a starter than a reliever. Like I think as a reliever, I put all that pressure on me, like mentally, is because I'm like, I gotta be this, I gotta be that, and then I go to starter, I'm the same guy, same pitches, everything, but I'm just like, all right, I'm starting the game, it's cool, like fans are here, like, it's just like it was different. Like
Yeah.
I attacked guys like the same way, but I don't think I tried less.
Yeah.
And less is more in my book, and now that I know that, younger me, that's what I tell younger me is less is more.
Yeah.
So